Daniel Cross was running. His footsteps echoed across the shining floor of the largest spaceport on Earth. Above him, giant screens flashed the words, "Final boarding Galactic Flight 472. It was the ship he had dreamed of for years. The ship that would take him across the stars. His heart pounded as he pushed through the crowd of travelers, aliens with glowing eyes, robots carrying heavy bags, humans rushing with excitement. Daniel was late, very late. This was his one chance to leave Earth and see the galaxy. His ticket had cost him every credit he had saved. His friends had laughed, saying, "Humans don't belong out there. The galaxy is too big, too cold. Stay home." But Daniel wanted more. He wanted adventure. He wanted to prove them wrong. Now he was seconds away from missing it. As he sprinted past a row of shops, he suddenly noticed something. An old alien, small and bent, was struggling near the edge of the hall. Its arms shook as it tried to pick up a heavy metal case. The case slipped and fell again. The alien stumbled, almost falling. Daniel slowed for a moment. His eyes darted between the alien and the bright gate ahead. He could already hear the last call echoing. Final boarding. Gate closing in 30 seconds. His brain screamed at him, "Run, forget it." This is your dream. But his heart whispered, "Help." Daniel stopped. He sighed, turned, and hurried to the alien. "Here," he said, kneeling down. His voice was kind, though his chest was tight with panic. "Let me help you." The alien looked up. Its skin was pale silver, its eyes dim like fading stars. Slowly it nodded. Daniel lifted the heavy case and placed it onto the alien's hover cart. The alien's voice trembled as it spoke. You are human?" "Yes," Daniel said, trying to smile. "And you need to be careful with this case." The alien studied him for a long moment. Then, with surprising strength, it reached out and touched his arm. "You chose kindness over time. Few still do." Daniel didn't understand. He gave a quick nod, muttered a rushed goodbye, and turned back toward the gate. But it was too late. The doors were closed. Through the glass wall, Daniel could see the massive Starliner pulling away. Lights flickered along its hull as engines warmed. A low rumble filled the air. He pressed his hands to the glass, his eyes wide. "Wait! Please wait!" he shouted. But no one listened. The ship rose, then vanished into the black sky above. His dream gone. Daniel stood frozen. His throat tightened. He had missed his flight. The flight he had worked years for. The flight that was supposed to change his life. He turned slowly, his eyes searching for the alien. But the spot was empty. The old figure was gone as if it had never been there. For a long time, Daniel sat in the silent terminal. His bag rested at his feet, useless now. Around him, the crowd had disappeared. Only cleaning drones hummed softly. Anger burned inside him. "Why did I stop?" he muttered to himself. "Why didn't I just run?" But even as he asked, he knew the answer. He could not have walked past. Not when someone needed help. Still, his heart was heavy. He had lost everything. Then something strange happened. As he sat there, the screens above flickered. For a second, his name flashed across them. Daniel Cross. He blinked in surprise. Had he imagined it? Moments later, a security drone floated toward him. Its metal frame gleamed under the lights. Normally, drones ignored humans like him, but this one stopped and scanned his face. "Welcome, honored guest," it said in a calm voice. Daniel frowned. "Honored what?" Before he could ask again, a door nearby slid open with a hiss. The sign above it glowed bright red. Restricted access. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. The door had opened. For him. He stood slowly, confusion twisting in his mind. Why would the spaceport's restricted area open for a human who had just missed his flight? He took a step closer. The air from inside the door was strangely warm, almost inviting. Behind him, he thought he heard a voice. Soft. Whispering. "You are not just a passenger anymore." Daniel spun around. The hall was empty. Only shadows stretched across the polished floor. His skin tingled with unease. He looked again at the open door. His chest tightened with fear and curiosity. He had missed his chance to travel the stars. Yet somehow something even stranger was beginning. With a deep breath, Daniel stepped forward. The door slid shut behind him, and in that moment Daniel Cross had no idea that his life and perhaps the future of the galaxy had just changed forever. The door closed behind Daniel with a heavy hiss. The sound echoed in the quiet hall, and for a moment he wondered if he had just made a terrible mistake. He looked around. The corridor ahead was nothing like the bright public spaceport he had left. Here the lights were dim and the walls were smooth metal, glowing with faint blue lines. Strange symbols shifted across the surface as if the walls themselves were alive. Daniel swallowed hard. "Where am I?" he whispered. His footsteps sounded loud as he walked forward. Every few seconds he glanced back, but the door behind him had already vanished. It was as if it had never existed, the empty corridor. The hallway stretched endlessly. At first he thought it was deserted, but then he noticed something. Shadows moved at the edges of his vision. When he turned, nothing was there. The air felt heavy, like unseen eyes were watching him. "Hello?" he called out nervously. His voice cracked. "Is anyone here?" No reply. Only silence. He walked faster, his heartbeat loud in his ears. Then suddenly the blue lights on the walls shifted. Words appeared in a language he could not understand. But in the middle of those glowing marks, one word stood out clearly in English. Human. Daniel froze. His chest tightened. "They know I'm here," he thought. A strange respect. At the end of the corridor, a door opened automatically, leading to a vast lounge. It was filled with aliens of every kind. Tall, short, with wings, with scales, with glowing eyes. The moment Daniel stepped inside, all conversation stopped. Every alien turned to look at him. Daniel's stomach dropped. He had never felt so small. Normally, humans were ignored in places like this. Out in the galaxy, humans were newcomers, seen as weak and unimportant. But now, the silence was heavy with something else. Respect. One of the aliens, a tall figure with skin like dark glass, whispered, "That's him, the one who delayed destiny." Daniel's eyes widened. Delayed destiny? What does that mean? Another alien bowed slightly as he passed. A third lowered its eyes as if in honor. Daniel felt heat rising in his face. Wait, why are they treating me like this? The shadow figure, he sat down at the edge of the lounge, confused and trembling. His mind raced. Just hours ago, he was nobody. A simple human who had missed his flight. Now strangers acted as though he was important. He barely had time to think before he noticed someone watching him. Across the lounge stood a figure cloaked in shadows, taller than the rest, its face hidden beneath a hood. It did not move, did not speak. Only its glowing eyes fixed on him with strange intensity. Daniel's chest grew tight. He looked away quickly, pretending not to notice. But when he glanced back, the figure was closer. He blinked in fear. No footsteps, no sound. Yet it was nearer. A cold shiver ran through him. The warning finally. The cloaked figure stepped into the light. Its face was still hidden, but its voice was deep, calm, and strange. "You are not just a passenger anymore," it said. Daniel felt his throat go dry. "What do you mean?" The figure tilted its head. "You missed your flight because you chose to help. That choice has already changed your path." Daniel frowned. "I don't understand. I just helped an old alien. That's all." The figure's eyes glowed brighter. "No act of kindness is small. The universe saw it." "He saw it." "He?" Daniel asked, confused, but the figure did not answer. Instead, it leaned closer and whispered, "You will be tested. Remember this. Not every door opens by accident." And just as suddenly as it appeared, the figure turned and melted back into the crowd. When Daniel stood up to follow, it was gone. The name on the screen. Daniel sat back down, his heart pounding. Questions swirled in his mind. What test? Who was watching me? What did they mean by he? Before he could make sense of anything, the room shifted again. A giant holoscreen lit up above the lounge. Names of passengers and VIPs scrolled across in hundreds of alien scripts. Then Daniel saw it. His name. Daniel Cross. Priority guest. His stomach flipped. No, that can't be me. That has to be a mistake. But the aliens in the room reacted instantly. A murmur spread. Some stared with open shock, others nodded with respect. A small alien with insect-like wings fluttered toward him. Its voice buzzed as it spoke. Honored one, your invitation is waiting. You must not delay. The private shuttle. Daniel's voice shook. Invitation to what? The alien only bowed and pointed toward another door, glowing gold at the far side of the room. His legs felt weak as he walked toward it. Every alien he passed stepped aside, clearing the way for him. Some even placed their hands to their chests in a gesture of honor. Daniel's mind screamed in confusion. Why me? I'm just a man who missed his flight. This doesn't make sense. The golden door opened, and beyond it waited a sleek private shuttle. Its surface gleamed like silver glass. The inside glowed with soft blue light, warm and alive. Daniel hesitated at the entrance. His body trembled with both fear and curiosity. As he stepped inside, he felt a strange calm wash over him. The shuttle door closed behind him with a soft hum. He was no longer in the public spaceport. He was being taken somewhere far more secret, somewhere he had never imagined. The shuttle lifted off quietly, leaving the spaceport behind. Daniel stared out the window, heart racing. He whispered to himself, "What is happening to me?" And somewhere unseen in the shadows of the shuttle, a familiar voice answered softly, "You helped me, Daniel Cross. Now it is my turn to help you." Daniel froze. The voice was the same trembling one he had heard from the elderly alien he had helped earlier. But this time, the voice was strong. Daniel sat in silence as the private shuttle drifted away from the great spaceport. The hum of its engines was soft, almost calming, but his mind was anything but calm. He pressed his hands against the smooth glass window, staring at the shrinking view of Earth. This should have been the happiest moment of his life, his first time leaving his planet. Instead, he felt trapped in a puzzle he didn't understand. "Why me?" he whispered. "Why am I here?" The empty shuttle. The shuttle's cabin was elegant but strangely empty. Silver walls shimmered with faint lights, and the seats were wide, built for comfort. But Daniel was the only passenger. His heart thumped. A luxury shuttle. For one human? Impossible, he tried calling out. "Hello, anyone here?" No answer. He stood and moved cautiously down the aisle. As he walked, the lights brightened with every step, as though the ship was alive and watching him. Then a seatbelt tightened around the nearest chair, pulling itself taut without anyone touching it. The shuttle seemed to be inviting him to sit. Daniel hesitated. Finally, he lowered himself into the seat. The belt wrapped around him automatically. Moments later, the shuttle changed course. The golden hollow card, a soft sound filled the cabin, like a bell. From the ceiling, a golden light shimmered, and a hollow card appeared in the air before him. Daniel leaned forward, eyes wide. His own name glowed across the card. Daniel Cross, Special Invitation. Below it, strange alien script scrolled endlessly. But then in English, he saw the words, Destination, Council of the Stars. His mouth went dry. Council of the Stars? That's impossible. He had heard rumors of it before. A secret gathering of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Kings, leaders, merchants, and warlords, those who ruled entire star systems. Even most aliens never saw it. For a human, an outsider, to be invited? Unthinkable. The hollow card flickered and vanished. The voice returns. "Do you understand now?" Daniel jumped. The voice came from the seat across from him. He turned, and there, sitting calmly, was the elderly alien he had helped at the spaceport. But something was different. The alien no longer looked weak and fragile. Its posture was straight, its eyes glowing bright like suns, its silver skin shining with quiet strength. Daniel's mouth fell open. You're the same alien. The one with the heavy case." "But how?" The alien smiled faintly. "Appearances can lie, Daniel Cross. What you saw was a test." "A test?" The alien nodded. "Yes, and you passed. You stopped when no one else would. You gave up your dream to help a stranger. That is why you are here now." Daniel shook his head. "But I don't understand. Why would helping you? Why would something so small matter to the most powerful council in the galaxy?" The revelation begins. The alien's glowing eyes softened. "Because I am not only an old traveler. I am Ilarion." The name hit Daniel like thunder. He had heard it whispered before, even on Earth. Ilarion, the richest being in the galaxy. Owner of fleets, worlds, and trade routes. And most importantly, owner of the largest starliner company in the known universe. "You," Daniel stammered. "You own the airline? The one whose flight I just missed?" Ilarion's smile widened. "Missed? No. You were redirected." Daniel blinked, unable to speak. "You think the galaxy moves on chance?" Ilarion continued. "No, every choice shapes destiny. And you, human, chose kindness." The weight of the words, Daniel leaned forward, gripping the edge of his seat. His voice trembled. "But I'm no one. I'm just a mechanic's son from Earth. I saved for years to afford a single ticket. Why would someone like me matter to you?" Ilarian's glowing eyes never wavered. Because true worth is not measured in wealth or power. It is measured in choices. And sometimes a single small choice changes the course of history. Daniel felt his chest tighten. His hands shook. He wanted to argue, to deny it, but deep inside, he knew there was truth in those words. The coming storm. The shuttle shook slightly as it entered faster than light travel. Stars stretched into lines of light outside the window. Ilarian's expression grew serious. The Council has watched many species rise and fall. Empires born and destroyed. We thought humans were not yet ready for the galaxy. Daniel frowned. So why bring me here now? Ilarian's eyes darkened, their glow sharp like fire. Because a storm is coming. A danger greater than greed, greater than war. A force that cannot be fought with weapons alone. When it arrives, only those who still value kindness and sacrifice will stand a chance. Daniel swallowed hard. The air felt colder. What kind of danger? Ilarian leaned closer, his voice low and heavy. An ancient intelligence. It devours stars, consumes worlds, and leaves nothing alive. It is not evil. It simply does not care. It is a swarm, a hunger without end. Daniel's skin prickled. His stomach twisted. And what does that have to do with me? He asked quietly. Ilarian's lips curved into a strange smile. Everything. The shuttle began to slow. Outside, a colossal space station appeared. Brighter and larger than anything Daniel had ever seen. Rings of light wrapped around it, and hundreds of ships floated nearby like bees around a hive. This, Ilarian said, pointing toward the glowing station, is where the galaxy decides its fate, and you, Daniel Cross, have been given a seat inside. Daniel stared, speechless, his heart thundering in his chest. He had missed his flight. He had lost his dream. But in that moment, he realized he had boarded something far greater, something that might decide the future of every living thing in the galaxy. The shuttle glided smoothly into the docking bay of the colossal station. From the window, Daniel could see its endless rings spinning, each one filled with light and life. Ships of every size floated around it like sparks around a fire. The sight stole his breath. This is where the Council meets? Daniel whispered. Beside him, Ilarian gave a slow nod. Yes, the place where the rulers of the galaxy gather, where decisions echo for centuries. Daniel pressed his hands against the glass, unable to believe it. He had dreamed of seeing alien stars, maybe walking on strange worlds, but never this. And yet a cold weight pressed on his chest. Why him? Why here? The arrival. When the shuttle landed, the doors opened with a soft hiss. Daniel followed Ilarian into a grand hall. Its ceiling stretched higher than any cathedral on Earth, glittering with floating crystals. Alien banners glowed along the walls, each one carrying symbols of entire civilizations. Delegates moved gracefully through the hall. Some floated, some glided, some walked with armor that shimmered like liquid light. Every pair of eyes turned toward Daniel. Their stares were heavy with curiosity, even disbelief. A voice rang out in his head, not spoken but telepathic. A human? Here, another whispered aloud. He is the one Ilarian chose. Daniel's palms grew sweaty. He felt like a child who had walked into the throne room of gods. Ilarian's truth. Ilarian raised a hand and the room grew quiet. He led Daniel to a private chamber, quieter and darker than the hall. A circular table floated in the center and seats of light formed around it. Daniel sat hesitantly, his voice shaking. Ilarian, why me? I'm not a leader. I'm not powerful. I'm not even rich. I was just trying to catch a flight. Ilarian's glowing eyes locked on his. That is why you matter. Power blinds. Wealth corrupts. But kindness? Kindness survives when all else fails. Daniel frowned. You could have chosen anyone. Why test me at the gate? Ilarian's silver skin shimmered, his form shifting slightly as though made of living light. I do this often. I disguise myself as weak, as forgotten, as useless. I wait in ports, on roads, in crowded markets. And I watch. Few stop. Most hurry past, fearing they might lose something important. But those who choose to lose time, to lose chance to help another, they reveal their true worth. Daniel's breath caught. So, missing my flight wasn't an accident? No, Ilarian said softly. It was your first step. The galaxy's illness, the chamber lights dimmed. Ilarian raised his hand and a vast projection filled the air, a swirl of stars and planets glowing with life. This is the galaxy, he said. So bright, so full of voices. But beneath it all, there is an illness. The projection shifted, worlds cracked apart, armies clashed. Shadows spread like ink through the stars. Greed, fear, hatred, they spread faster than light. Many leaders worship profit above peace. They build weapons, not trust. They race to own the stars, but they forget what makes life worth saving. Daniel stared at the images, his throat tight. He had seen greed on Earth. He had seen wars fought over land and power. But across the galaxy it looked far worse. So you test kindness? Daniel asked quietly. Yes, Ilarion said, because kindness is the rarest strength. It cannot be bought or forced or stolen, only chosen. Daniel sat back, his mind spinning. But I'm just one man. What can I do against all this? Ilarion leaned forward. His voice was firm, unshakable. One man can change more than armies. History remembers not the countless who marched, but the few who chose differently. Daniel shook his head. I'm not a hero. I didn't fight anyone. I didn't save a planet. I just picked up a bag for someone who looked tired. Ilarion's smile was faint but warm. And that is why you may yet save more than a planet. Daniel's stomach twisted. The words were too heavy, too impossible. He wanted to run, to go back to Earth, to forget this. But deep down he felt something stirring. A quiet voice inside whispered, maybe this is why you were brought here. The storm approaches, Ilarion lifted his hand again, and the stars in the projection turned black. From the void came a swarm. Billions of metallic fragments moving as one, devouring planets, stripping them to lifeless stone. Daniel's eyes widened. What is that? Ilarion's voice darkened. The swarm, an ancient machine intelligence. It does not hate. It does not love. It only consumes. Entire civilizations have vanished before its hunger. And now it turns its gaze toward our part of the galaxy. Daniel's chest tightened. He watched as worlds were torn apart, as fleets of warships crumbled before the endless tide. No weapon can outlast it, Ilarion said grimly. No fortress can hold against it. The only way to survive is through unity. And unity cannot be built on fear or greed. It must begin with trust, with kindness. The hidden owner revealed. Daniel stared at him. So, that's why you own the airline? That's why you test people? Ilarion nodded slowly. I own fleets, yes. Worlds, yes. But all of it is nothing without those who still remember compassion. Money builds ships, but kindness builds hope, and hope is the only thing the swarm cannot eat. Daniel felt a shiver crawl down his spine. Ilarion's glowing eyes fixed on him. That is why you are here. Not because you are powerful, not because you are clever, but because you chose to stop. Because you chose another's need over your own dream. Daniel's voice cracked. You think that small act matters? Ilarion leaned closer, his voice a whisper like thunder. It matters more than anything. Cliffhanger. The chamber doors opened suddenly. A messenger alien rushed in, its eyes wide with fear. My lord, it cried, bowing to Ilarion. The swarm has attacked a colony on the outer rim. Entire cities are falling. Daniel's blood ran cold. Ilarion stood tall, his voice heavy with command. Then the council must act. And the human will stand with us. Daniel froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He had wanted nothing more than to see the stars. Now the fate of those stars was being placed in his hands. The chamber shook as the messenger's words hung in the air. The swarm has attacked the outer rim. Daniel's heart raced. He looked at Ilarion, who stood like a statue carved from silver light. Around them, council members were already arguing, their voices rising in a dozen alien tongues. One shouted, "Send the fleets." Another hissed, "Protect only the core worlds." A third voice thundered, "It is too late, we must abandon the colony." Daniel felt the weight of panic pressing down on the room. He had never seen so many powerful beings, yet they looked afraid, like children in a storm. The council's Chaos Ilarion raised his hand, and the noise fell silent. His voice was calm but heavy with command. The swarm is not just an enemy, it is hunger. To fight it, we must act together. If we let fear rule us, we are already lost. Some nodded, others muttered in doubt. Daniel sat frozen, trying to breathe. He had never been in a war council before. He had never even held a weapon. Yet somehow he was sitting at the same table where the galaxy's future was being decided. He whispered under his breath, "I don't belong here." But Ilarion's glowing eyes turned to him, as if he had heard the thought. "You belong more than most," he said softly. Daniel swallowed hard. The first strike moments later, the chamber darkened as a live projection appeared in the air. It showed a planet, green, alive, with oceans glittering like jewels. But across its skies moved a shadow, a cloud of metallic fragments endless in number. They swirled together like insects covering the sun. Then the screaming began. Cities crumbled. Ships rose to fight only to be torn apart like paper. Fire lit the surface as towers fell. Daniel's stomach twisted. Dear God. The swarm was not an army. It was a storm. A living storm of machines devouring everything in its path. The humans question. Daniel turned to Airline, his voice shaking. Why show me this? What can I do? I'm no soldier. Airline's face was calm, but his eyes burned. This is not only a battle of weapons, it is a battle of choices. A single choice can save thousands, or doom them. Daniel's fist tightened. He wanted to argue, to say he was just an ordinary man. But deep inside, he remembered the moment at the spaceport. The old alien, the bag, the choice. One small decision had already changed his life. Could another change more? The mission the council chamber shook again as alarms blared. A new voice echoed. Swarm fragments incoming. They approached the station. Daniel's blood ran cold. The battle was no longer far away, it was here. Airline placed a hand on his shoulder. You wish to see the stars, Daniel Cross. Now you will see if humans can stand among them. Daniel's throat was dry. What do you want me to do? Airline's gaze was steady. Go to the colony. Save who you can. Daniel stared at him in shock. Save them? With what? I don't have ships or weapons. Airline leaned closer. You have something greater. The choice to risk yourself for others. That is what makes the difference. Into the fire moments later, Daniel found himself aboard a smaller vessel, launched from the station. Around him, alien pilots prepared for battle, their ships darting like sparks into the void. Daniel sat in the cockpit of a transport craft, his hands trembling on the controls. He had never flown anything more than a ground car back on Earth. Now he was piloting through space toward a world being eaten alive. The comms buzzed with desperate voices. Civilian transports under attack. Shields failing. We can't hold them back. Daniel's chest tightened. He felt like screaming. This wasn't his fight. He didn't belong here. But then he remembered Airline's words. One man can change more than armies. The choice, as his ship entered the colony's orbit, he saw the horror with his own eyes. The sky was dark with metallic fragments. Ships exploded one after another. Civilians screamed over comm channels, begging for help. His scanners picked up a group of civilian transports trapped in the swarm's path. Families. Children. Another voice cut through the chaos. All fighters fall back. Protect the station. Leave the colony to its fate. Daniel froze. If he followed the order, he would be safe. He could turn back now, hide among the fleets, and no one would blame him, but if he stayed, he might die. His hands shook on the controls. His heart thundered, run, or risk everything. He whispered to himself. He closed his eyes. He saw the old alien's dim eyes in the spaceport, the bag slipping from trembling hands. He saw himself kneeling to help. A small act. A simple act. But it had meant everything. His eyes snapped open. No, he said firmly. I won't leave them. The humans stand. Daniel pushed the controls forward, driving his ship straight into the swarm. Alarms blared. The cockpit rattled. His screen flashed red with warnings, but he did not stop. Civilian transports, he shouted over the comms, his voice strong for the first time. Follow me. I'll clear you a path. The swarm moved like a storm of knives, but Daniel weaved through it, dodging shards, forcing gaps open for the slower ships to escape. Alien fighters joined him, inspired by his reckless courage. One by one, the transports slipped through the chaos, fleeing toward safety. Daniel gritted his teeth as his ship shook under fire. Sparks flew from the controls. He could feel the heat of burning circuits, but he didn't stop. Not until the last transport cleared the swarm. A blast rocked his ship. The controls went dead. The cockpit filled with smoke. Daniel coughed, blinking through the haze. He could barely see. His body ached. Through the cracked glass, he saw the colony burning below, and the swarm still spreading like a nightmare. His ship was falling. As darkness closed in, the last thing he heard was Airline's voice in his mind. This is why humans are needed. Smoke filled the cockpit. Sparks rained from the controls as Daniel's ship spun toward the burning colony below. The alarm screamed, red lights flashing across every screen. Daniel coughed, his lungs burning. His hands gripped the controls, but they were useless, dead and broken. He could feel the ship tearing apart. "This is it," he whispered. "This is how it ends." Falling through. Fire through the cracked glass, Daniel saw the colony's surface. Towers crumbled under the swarm's endless assault. Great clouds of dust and fire swallowed entire cities. The swarm moved like a living sea, devouring everything in its path. His heart thumped painfully. He had dreamed of the stars, of freedom, of adventure. Now he was falling, about to die on a world that wasn't even his. But then he thought of the transports. He remembered the families, the children, the voices begging for help. He had gotten them out. They were alive. For the first time, he didn't feel fear. He felt peace. "If this is the price," he whispered, closing his eyes, "then I'll pay it." A voice in the dark, but just as the ship's hull began to tear, a voice filled his mind. "Daniel Cross," it said firmly, "do not give up." His eyes snapped open. The cockpit flickered with golden light, and there beside him stood Airline, not in person but as a glowing projection. His silver form pulsed with quiet power. "You have already done what no fleet could," Airline said. "You chose others over yourself. But the galaxy is not finished with you yet." Daniel shook his head weakly. "I can't. The ship's gone. I can't do anything." Airline's eyes burned brighter. "Then choose again. Not with weapons. With will, the last power." Before Daniel could answer, the controls lit up again. A strange golden energy flowed through them, stronger than any power source he had seen. What is this?" he gasped. Airline's voice echoed softer now. "My ships obey me, and now they obey you. Guide it, Daniel." One last time. Daniel's hands trembled as he gripped the glowing controls. The ship groaned, but it responded. Slowly, painfully, he leveled its fall. Alarms still screamed, but he forced the vessel forward, aiming not for safety but for the swarm itself. The impossible choice on his scanners. A massive cluster of swarm fragments was forming. They were merging into something larger, sharper, deadlier, a weapon meant to pierce the station itself. If it launched, the station would fall. And with it, the council, the fleets, and every chance to fight back. Daniel's blood ran cold. He had one shot. He could ram his crippled ship into the forming swarm cluster, disrupt it, maybe buy the others time. But it meant certain death. His chest tightened. His mind screamed at him to find another way. But deep inside, he knew the truth. This was his choice. His alone. He thought of Earth, of his friends who had doubted him. He thought of the old alien he had helped. He thought of the families he had saved only moments ago, and he smiled faintly through the pain. "If I die," he whispered, "then let it mean something." The human spirit, he pushed the controls forward, his broken ship roaring with the last of its strength. The swarm cluster grew larger in the window, its metallic body twisting like a monster made of knives. Alien pilots cried over the comms, "Human, turn back. You'll be destroyed." But Daniel's voice was steady, calm. "Someone has to stop it." The comms fell silent. Then one by one, voices answered back, not with orders but with respect. "Go, human. Honor to you. For the galaxy." Daniel felt tears sting his eyes. For the first time, the galaxy was not laughing at humans. It was cheering for one, fire and light. The swarm cluster charged, its fragments glowing with deadly energy. Daniel's ship shook violently, its engines tearing apart. His vision blurred, his chest heavy with pain. But he kept going. Closer. Closer. At the last moment, he whispered, "This is what it means to be human." And he drove his ship straight into the heart of the swarm. The explosion lit the sky. A fireball brighter than the sun tore through the fragments. The cluster shattered, its deadly charge breaking apart into harmless pieces. The swarm recoiled, its endless tide disrupted for the first time. The station and the colony were safe, at least for now. Silence. Inside the wreck, Daniel lay slumped over the controls. Smoke filled the cabin. His body ached, every breath sharp with pain. He could hear faint voices on the comms. "The cluster is destroyed." "The human did it." "We're saved." But Daniel's vision dimmed. His strength was gone. He closed his eyes, a faint smile on his lips. "Worth it," he whispered. Darkness took him. Far above the battlefield, Airline watched the explosion from the council station. His glowing eyes were unreadable, but his voice was steady. "Do you see now?" he said to the gathered rulers. "This is why humanity must stand among us. This is why the human heart matters." And even as he spoke, medical ships rushed toward the wreck. Daniel Cross was not dead. Not yet. But whether he lived or became only a legend was a choice the galaxy itself would soon make. Daniel floated in darkness. For a long time he thought he was dead. No sound, no pain. Only silence like the deep void between stars, but slowly warmth touched him. A gentle hum surrounded him, soft as a heartbeat. He opened his eyes. The ceiling above was glowing white. He felt the softness of a bed beneath him. Machines hummed quietly around him. He turned his head and saw a window filled with stars. Daniel was alive. The awakening. He tried to sit up, but pain shot through his body. His chest was wrapped in bandages, his arms strapped in a brace. Every muscle ached, but his heart was still beating. The door slid open and a healer entered, an alien with shimmering skin and calm eyes. She checked the monitors, then gave him a small smile. "You should be resting," she said gently. "Few survive what you did, but you are human." Daniel blinked, confused. How long was I out?" 3 days, she answered. "And in that time, the galaxy has changed." The message of the human later. When he was strong enough to stand, Daniel was brought to a great hall on the station. It was filled with voices, banners, and lights. Every seat of the council was full, every ruler present. Thousands of delegates had gathered, and above them all hung a massive holoscreen, replaying the battle. Daniel watched in shock as the moment of his choice played again. The crippled human ship diving into the swarm cluster. The explosion, the swarm breaking apart. His heart pounded as he heard his own words echo through the speakers. "This is what it means to be human." The hall erupted with cheers. Alien voices shouted his name. Creatures who had once ignored humans now rose to honor him. Daniel's knees felt weak. He had never wanted fame. He had only wanted to see the stars. But now he realized he had shown the stars something they had forgotten. The council's decision Airline stood at the center of the hall, his silver form glowing bright. His voice thundered across the chamber. "Leaders of the galaxy, you have seen it with your own eyes. One human did what fleets could not. He chose to risk his life not for power, not for wealth, but for strangers. His act gave us more than victory. It gave us hope." The crowd grew silent as he continued. "For years, humans have been called weak. Too young for the stars, too fragile for the galaxy's storms. But now we know the truth. Weakness is not measured in muscle or in ships. Strength is measured in the courage to give when nothing remains. And in this humanity stands tall." He turned to Daniel. "Daniel Cross, you missed your flight, but you boarded destiny. And now I ask the council, will humanity be given a seat among us?" The chamber shook with voices. Some shouted in agreement, others in doubt. But one by one the rulers raised their hands, their banners glowing. The vote was clear. Humanity had been accepted. Daniel's chest tightened. He couldn't believe it. He stepped forward, his voice unsteady. "I don't deserve this," he said. "I was just trying to help." "Anyone would have done the same." Airline shook his head gently. "No, Daniel. Most would not. That is why you matter. You remind us what we have forgotten." Daniel lowered his eyes. He was no soldier, no leader. He was just a man who had missed his flight. And yet somehow he had changed the path of the galaxy. The elders' gift after the council. Daniel stood alone by the viewing deck, staring at the stars. His body still hurt, but his heart was quiet. Airline joined him. For the first time, the powerful being looked almost humble. "You gave them more than survival," Airline said. "You gave them a story. And stories move worlds." Daniel smiled faintly. "I didn't do it for stories." "I know," Airline replied. He reached into his robe and handed Daniel a small object, a golden ticket glowing softly. Daniel frowned. "What is this?" "A flight," Airline said. "Not one you missed, but one you earned. With this, no door in the galaxy will ever close to you again." Daniel held it tightly, his chest warm. The legacy news of the humans spread across the stars. Songs were sung of the man who chose kindness. Statues were raised not of a warrior but of a traveler with open hands. Children on distant worlds learned his name, but Daniel cared little for statues. What mattered to him was simpler. The galaxy now saw humans not as weak outsiders, but as allies, friends, equals. And deep inside he hoped that maybe, just maybe, his people on Earth would also see themselves differently. Not small, not powerless, but capable of changing the universe with even the smallest choice. That night Daniel returned to the viewing deck alone. The galaxy stretched before him, endless and bright. He thought of the journey that had begun with a single choice in a crowded spaceport. Helping an old alien, missing a flight, losing what he thought was everything. And yet, because of that choice, he had found more than he ever dreamed. He whispered softly to himself, smiling through tired eyes. I missed my flight. But I didn't miss my destiny. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter as if they had heard him, and somewhere, far in the endless dark, the swarm still stirred. But now the galaxy was no longer divided. Because of one simple human, it had remembered the oldest truth of all. Kindness can change the stars.